So, we're currently going through these technical difficulties, but like he said, the title of this one is Teach Me to Architect. And I named it that because we hear so many different things about what it is to become an architect or what our career should be like and the type of expectation that we should have. But as we all know that we enter the field, there's so many different growth groups and opportunities that are out there for us. So what I got today is a presentation where I break down some of the common misbeliefs. I go and I analyze some of the different opportunities that we each can have so that we can create an impact or be able to design a type of culture that we feel is really supportive of the different things that we want to work with. So we're hoping that the presentation gets loaded up. In the meantime, can I get a feel for some of the people outside the audience? Anyone that's been practicing this out of a career for over 5 years? Anyone here? Okay. Anyone practicing over 10 years inside the career? Okay. Do we have anyone that just entered their career within the first 1 to 5 years working with a firm or outside the firm? Okay. College. How about college? Do we have any college seniors? We need. Okay. Isn't that a good number of seniors? And do we have any below seniors or any sophomores? Any freshmen? Okay, I was about to say you guys are way ready. But that's good though. Because we have a good diverse mix, and that's what I wanted, so that when we leave here, these conversations can happen and we can begin to discuss with people who've already been in the field for 10 years some of the things that we're expecting or looking forward to. And so I begin that to say, this is all a part of my why. I think it is very important that we establish early on what it is and why you want to do this. If your why is not strong enough, you will not make it. Your why has to be something personal. You know, I thought my why was I wanted to design cool buildings. And after I got through it for a few years, I was like, you know what, I don't have to do this to design cool buildings. I realized that that was not my why. Your why is something that may have a part of your life inside of it or a deep passion of you. Would anybody be able to stand up and just give me their why, please? Anyone? Can anyone share their why? Yes. To, what's that? To improve the community? And why is that you want to help the community? But do you have a personal connection with that reason? What about your community? Okay, and see, and that's where it stems from. Once we dig below that surface and really begin to see what our why is. Because when we're designing and we're thinking about our community, the next is that part to continue. We are, okay, well, we're still waiting on that to happen. Okay, so I'll begin to tell you how I plan to break down the presentation. I start with the why, and I start with a little background on me. I'm from, there we go, thank God. I gotta go to church Sunday somehow. All right. Teach me to architect. Oel, Robert, Marcel, Scott. If I know you from school, you're one of my friends, you may know about Oel. Oel is Leo spelled backwards. My mom let my dad get away with it, so we went with it. Robert, if I met you through business when I started as a general contractor, I went by that name because it was easier for me to deal with my subs and all the different clients I had. You remember Robert? So I break this presentation down to smart marketing, effective networking, finding your perfect firm, and shaping your legacy. We got 40 minutes, so I'm gonna try to make it there. It starts with this, a lesson for life. I had one professor at Hampton University. His name was Ronald Foster. My Hampton people know him. Woo! Ron was not the best professor, okay?
Oh, God.
He wasn't. He was one of those professors that he didn't really teach as much as the other professors. He didn't really show up much. We had a thing where we'd send one person out to go see if he'd show up, and if he did, they sent us a message and we knew we had class. But Ron taught me something that's very important. Ron taught me how to draw a line, okay? That was the first thing he taught me, and I always remember. He said, this is what you do to draw a straight line. You find where you want to start at, and then you focus on where you want to go, and you never take your eyes off where you want to go, and you keep moving in that direction. And I use that as a platform of how I base the things that I do throughout my life. I focus on where I want to be at, and I keep moving inside the direction. And it takes practice. Every now and then my lines get, kind of shaky, kind of Frank Gary-ish where I'm all over the place, but I remember that I gotta focus on that. And one key part of that is remembering your why. Because when you started, it's not college, it's not architecture school. You start with your why, because that's what you can always come back to and then reposition yourself to go to where you're headed. So that's a very important lesson from Ron. This is a part of my why. This is where I started in New Orleans, Louisiana. This was my grandmother's house that we lived in. This is where I got introduced to architecture. We started with like 5 people in that house, it grew to 12 people in that house. Whenever we had more babies getting born, my grandfather kept building more rooms. I didn't know it was architecture. I had no idea what architects were. All I knew was he was building more, and that's how I got introduced to it. And then this happened in 2005, headed to my 9th grade year of high school. One of the most crucial years, because that's where you start, high school, everything starts. There was a lot of devastation. We lost a lot. I lost all my friends, we really didn't connect anymore. Everything that I thought I had. My definition of place had now changed because I was then moving from place to place. And what that helped me do was look at rules and boundaries and norms that people had. And I learned how to establish my own. How it's okay to be different from those things. Those all play a part. And then this is New Orleans. So if you go down there now and you look on TV, you see some stuff like this. Don't do this, okay? And if you're working on these projects or projects like that, you gotta understand, this affects a lot of people's communities. When you do stuff like this, you need to go inside those communities and see how people live. We all want to be great architects and do great stuff, but please don't. One more time, don't do this to cities. Back to the journey. Hampton University, that's where I went to college at. I randomly chose it. At that point in my life, I didn't care. I flipped the border between Hampton and Howard, and it landed on Tails, so I landed on Hampton. That's one of the dorms right there. This guy right here designed a dorm, very famous architect. He designed Virginia Cleveland Hall in 1874, and he also designed the Biltmore residence. I want to give away little things because it makes it funner for me. Does anybody know who that architect is? He did Biltmore, he did Virginia Cleveland. Hampton people can know this too. Nobody know? His name starts with an R. Can somebody Google it real quick? All right, well, look, when somebody finds that out who that architect is, I want to give away this pad right here, and I got a few more of these pads. I want you to use these pads to write down your plans for what you want to do. It is very important that you write it down. Don't type it. Typing is good, but once you write it, you connect it with yourself. So when somebody Google that, raise your hand, and then I'll hand this one out. Thank you. There we go. That was Richard Morris Hunt. Come on, I got it. All right. So in college, when you're in college, make sure you think outside of just the architecture department. You don't want to just be around those same people. When I was in college, I was in college. My 5-year program, 5.5 years, took me 6.5 years. After the 4th year, I stopped paying attention to time. If I go back, I'd change some of those things, but I wouldn't change stepping outside the architecture department. NOMAs, AIAS, those are all things I got through architecture that were great, real fun. But I mean, I went and pledged, did a fraternity thing. I was every part of a Q-Dog. NASA, I joined, was taking graduate atmospheric planetary science courses, just looking at how other people think, because the clients that you will someday deal with don't think like architects. They think like how they think inside their field, so that's a good way to build. Friends, tell your boy, and I was a DJ Pressway. So then we graduated. So on my life checklist, I was like, cool, done, I'm out of here, graduated. What's next? I'm gonna get a $135,000 job designing cool buildings, right? I applied everywhere. And I was thinking, they just wait until I graduate to send me back the yeses. But it didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way at all. So I realized, you know what? I need to go back and look at how I market myself. Maybe they don't see me the way that I see myself. So I had to get better, smarter at marketing. And that starts with first, understanding your value. You need to know what you're good at. I know we feel like we're good at all these things, but you really need to understand what value you have. And second, knowing what your client needs. It's good if you have value, but it's better when you can find a place that can match your value to its full potential. You're good at something that somebody else doesn't need, is no benefit. Lastly, presentation. So you got down that you're good at it, and you understand that they need it, but you have no way to convey that message. Your presentation needs to match your value. So value, what am I good at? You need to find it out. One way is you can look at what other people ask you. A lot of times when you don't know your value, a lot of people around you can see it. People used to always ask me, how do I render these buildings? Or ask me for help with their presentation techniques as far as laying stuff out. And I already know I was good at presentation, but that helped confirm it for me. So that's some way that you can kind of help reassure what you're good at. And lastly, what do you enjoy doing? When I was rendering or designing or setting up my boards, I didn't even notice the time was going by. These are some of the things that you realize that you put a lot of energy and effort into, and it does not feel like work. It feels like you're building your value. Increase your value. So once you find out you're good at it, don't stop practicing it. Some people tell me, I'm real good at Revit. I'm real good at designing a building. Okay, when's the last time you designed a building? A few years ago in Fort Pierce Studio. Well, that's a few years ago. Why aren't you designing now? Just because you're good at something one time doesn't mean you just stop with it and you can add it to your resume. And there's so many ways to increase your value. These are just some of the ways I did. When I got out of college and didn't get a job, I was on YouTube every day trying to see how to do something, learning. I joined groups inside my city. I was the youngest person in the New Orleans Revit user group. But I started meeting people. They started telling me different ways how they do it inside the profession. Young Architects Forum. I still do design competitions to this day. There's so many ways to increase your value. Secondly, knowing what your client needs. First thing, you gotta find the right client, okay? And you really have to find somebody that pairs well with you. Shotgun versus sniper. My first approach, I was shotgun. I was shooting everywhere. That Christmas before I graduated, I didn't go home. I took all the money I had. I mailed about 100 resumes off to all over the United States. Whatever money I had left, I put inside my car. I put on a suit. Probably was a suit from Goodwill back then, but I put on a suit. I went to Washington, D.C. I mapped out every single firm that they had in there that I wanted to work at. I knocked on everybody's door. Everybody's door. And that morning I started with a prayer. I was so nervous. Knocking like, can I speak to John here, And people were, sorry, it's busy. We're busy. Did you set up an appointment? No, we're busy. Okay? I was shooting everywhere, putting so much energy without really seeing who was looking for something that I had. That's where you take a sniper approach. You zero in on what you want, where that firm is at, what type of people you want to work with, and then you put your energy towards that. The hunt, it's all a part of the big hunt. There's somebody right now looking for a person like you with your exact skill set, whatever you excel in, because there's so large a variety of needs. There's somebody that wants what you have. And then there's somebody out there who would benefit tremendously if they knew what you had existed. Some people, the things and techniques that we have or that we are bringing out, some people do not know that can be of a benefit to them. And so that's why it's important to know how you present that to them. So, some good things to have: a good resume, good portfolio, make sure your teaser sheet is really nice, print it on nice paper, not regular white paper. Business cards are important to have. A website. I went up and beyond. I saw some of the top competitors were having their own websites. I went and created a website. I spent time on getting that together. When I got my job and they asked me about my information, I said, check out my teaser sheet, but I also have a website you can look at. So a website? Yeah, I went and created a website myself so that we could look at it. And then your 3-minute pitch. Employers are hearing everybody attack them all day long. You need to narrow it down, sharpen it, get it on point. Your 3-minute pitch should be a bit of your why and most of your value that you can contribute. You got one shot, make it count. Now, I had one of these earlier. What you see on the right is what they sell on TV and what they show inside the pictures and what they have inside the ad. What you see on the left is what you get whenever you're going hungry. Now, we know we're going to get what they have on the left every time, but they always present us what we have on the right. Those two things are virtually the same, but it's their presentation that helps it go over well. Effective networking. Now, we came here to network. Everybody been networking? Anybody meet any good people that, any good potential people you want to work with, collaborate with? Yeah? Nobody? A few? Okay. I hope y'all are networking out here in Los Angeles. Some of the, great places to network. I've been doing some networking myself. Some of that's the personal association we build. But the networking that we look at now is very broad. You got online networking, which is really popular. And then you got organizations, your personal association that you have with other people, and then you got mentors. So, your online network, you're swimming in a pool of a bunch of people. Online networks, everybody has their resume uploaded, and they're just sending it out to everybody. You're competing with everyone. It's real large. It's relatively new. For a lot of older firms, they may not be that strong inside the online presence, so they may not be getting what you're sending out there. And then you have to realize also when you're networking, you have a private life versus your public life. Now, I'm not saying hide when you're doing what you're doing private, but you need to be conscious, because who you're trying to work for, they don't see you as who you are. They look at you as how you can reflect in their company. So you gotta learn where you find your little medium at. Then we get smaller organizations. Like I was saying before, I'm a part of a bunch of organizations genuinely because I want to be a part of them, but those lead to other opportunities to network inside those places. Next, we got our personal associations. So these can be your co-workers, people that refer you to someone, classmates, people that are attending the conference, potential mentors. What's real important about these is that you don't ruin these relationships. If you have an agenda, something that you want to get out of somebody, you need to somehow make that clear. Don't be false with it. You know, if you want something from me, you want to network with me, then kind of let me understand that. It should start off with a genuine foundation. You should both have mutual benefits inside of it. It just shouldn't be one way where I'm providing something to you and you're not really showing me that you're doing something with it, or there's no benefit to it. And then you need to maintain communication. If we meet at this conference right now and I tell you about something and you say, cool, that sounds like a good idea, and I don't hear from you or get into the next conference, and then you're like, hey, what's up, you know, can we still, and it's like, well, what happened? I'm not asking you to text me every day or email me every month, but you can kind of keep a communication going. Mentors. I'm a Star Wars fan, so I had to throw that in there. But like Yoda and Luke, your mentor should be somebody that should push you to do the best that you can do inside your thing. You know, you really want to make sure that the mentor you pick is a good fit for you. Your mentor should have good character. And I know we see a lot of people that we want to be our mentors because of what they do or what they've accomplished. But if they don't have good character, it won't work out for you in the long run. Because if they don't have good character, you work with your mentor, and it may lead you to a place of doing some things, or they may guide you in the wrong way. So that's the most important thing. Secondly, establish goals. Let your mentor know what you want to do. So that way, when they're mapping out things, you can kind of correlate your plans. Mentor versus employer. We're told never to ask our mentors for a job. Because then what it kind of does, it kind of skews the line of being a mentor to being your employer. Now, I'm not saying you can't hint at it. You know, you could be like, if you know somebody with a job, you know, you can let me know. But never, well, I think it's not good to directly ask your mentor for a job. Now, you can ask them to refer you to other people to help you out. And then genuine relationship, you want to have a relationship with your mentor. You know, you don't want to be fake. Fulfill responsibilities. If your mentor gives you something or asks you to do something and you agree to it, it's always good to do it because this is the person that you have going to bat for you, speaking for you to other people. So you want to make sure that you can show them that you're able to handle your end of the business. Tim Ferriss, real good guy I like. He has a real good podcast that I listen to, and he puts some real good seminar tips. And I really want you guys to pay attention to this because I want you all to use this. I know this is Friday, but it's still time to be able to use it. So choose your seminars that have the most interesting speakers. Don't go off topic name. Why? Because anybody can pick a topic name and be a boring presenter. You know, I'm not a boring presenter, but anybody can pick a topic name and it be boring. Look at what they do. They for NOMA, you can actually see some of the presentation ahead of time. But if you look at interesting people, they'll make an interesting presentation and you learn so much more. Break away from your friends. Cliquish. I was very cliquish. I found my clique of friends at NOMA. We usually just hung out, waited till 3 o'clock and just like dipped off. But you need to find ways to break away from your group so that you can build a new service with other people. Create comfort zone goals. This is a big one. It kind of deals with being cliquish, but it's more personal. We all have our own comfort zone that we allow ourselves to live into. I think it's important that we all establish goals that we want to break. For instance, me, myself, I came to these, I noticed that mostly I would speak to probably mostly like black people, maybe like a few white people, mostly guys. I didn't really just go up and address women unless we're in a close vicinity because it was a little awkward for me at that time, you know, because it's a conference. But if you begin to establish goals, like say for instance, I never went up to anybody that was Asian or went and spoke to them. Maybe my goal could be like, all right, for this conference, I'll go speak to 3 people outside of my race. because I'm usually not comfortable doing it. But I want to use this opportunity to build outside of my comfort zone. And why is that important? Well, it's important because when you go to do jobs and stuff, you're not going to always be inside your comfort zone. I'm at jobs sometimes and I'm like, dude, like, this is so weird for me, but I've been practicing stepping outside my comfort zone. So good conversation topics, make sure when you meet these people, something always good is asking them, what brought them to NOMA, where they're from, how long have they currently been at their current firm, or any particular good seminar. Halfway through the checklist, we've gone through being able to go market, increasing your network, and now deciding what opportunity to pursue. So, finding the perfect firm. I think it's really important that early on, you find where you really want, well, not that you have it nailed down, but you kind of know what you really want to do. Don't make a brash decision off of what looks nice. That's why you really need to understand what you need for yourself to be able to grow and foster somewhere. Okay? Everything that looks pretty isn't good. So first, assess your current needs, review the firm opportunities, research the structure, firm culture, discover the potential costs of working and living inside the area, and last, you got to trust your heart. Your needs assessment. So you need to understand what you need to be able to build a firm. Like the studio, right? Besides studio, I'm pretty sure you had some studios where you just did so much better because you felt the culture was better. You felt the teaching was better. You were a better student at that time. And then you have some studios where you just hate to go because it's not the type of place that you want to be in. Well, you need to understand, what do you need? So some of the things could be like what resources, what type of computers. Some firms don't really have, the latest technology stuff that you're used to. Work time off, that's big for some people. Some people, if you work somewhere that's far from where you live, you may need time off for holidays, family, salary requirements. That's a big one. I know everybody wants to make millions of bucks, but you have to be realistic as far as what do you need so that you can live comfortably or live at a means that it's one to your liking. Office setting. They have some offices that we see that are kind of open offices, work at home offices. Some offices are in real rural places. You have some offices in the heart of downtown. You have to really kind of think, where do I want to work at? What is that place like? And any additional training that could possibly be needed for a job. Could somebody please give me an idea of what they think their perfect firm would be? Could anyone? I'm giving away another sketchbook. I just want to, yes. Daylight coming in? Where is the building located?
Probably here.
In LA? What part of LA? LA is huge. Near the ocean? Oh, this sounds like a nice firm. We got a river next to mine, but okay, ocean, that's nice. How many people?
Small.
Small? 20 people? 20, 25 people? What type of work do y'all want to do?
Entertainment.
Okay. Set design. Okay. Well, when you open that firm up, could you please give me a call next to the ocean? Thank you. Opportunities and benefits. Okay, we want to really look at how you shape your career. We're not trying to get a job. We have jobs, but they all build into our career. What's the potential for you to grow at that firm? Are they going to have you there doing the same thing over and over? Do they have opportunities for you to learn, opportunities for you to explore things that you really want to do? Job diversity. Our firm does a few different jobs. I work for LK Architecture, and no, this is not a pitch for you to come work for my firm, though we are centrally located in Wichita, Kansas, and currently hiring, but we're a pretty good firm and we have job diversity. We do all different types of fields. I work in retail. I do Walmart work. I do stores in Walmart. But we have healthcare. We have other places. We have hospital care. I mean, we do a bunch of retail work. That's the bulk of our work. But we're very diverse. We also have engineering. What that means is if one year retail's not doing that well, then maybe we can look at another department like healthcare and put more of our efforts in that. It's very good when some firms have that availability to do some things like that. Or you can just go to a firm that does one type of job. I mean, it's real good to also be specialized inside of a certain field also. Travel, some people like to travel, some people don't like to travel. I'm not a big flyer. And then you have benefits. So, healthcare, AIA NOMA memberships. My firm, they pay for, we get a pretty good healthcare package. They pay for the AIA, NOMA, ARE testing. If I go on a test, they'll pay for my testing, they'll pay for my training. These are some of the things that your firm may not tell you, or a potential firm may not tell you, but that's because you don't ask. They may be willing to provide or be willing to work with you to offer these things. You gotta look at yourself as, if you're bringing value to a company, then they should be able to somehow match you. So firm structure. Legal business structure is important to do that, to know how your firm is set up. I mean, you need to know how they're running so that you can understand how the financials are ran. Levels, leadership organization, that's also very important as far as the firm structure. Transparency levels, my firm is very transparent. Everybody knows the financials. I mean, we know how much money we make, we know who's making money, and that's good on my end, so we can kind of get an understanding of how the things are working. And firm culture, us, talking about. My firm feels like a studio to me, okay? Me and my boss, we play Pokemon together, and he's the vice president of the firm. He texted me earlier, he got some cool Pokemon. But that's the culture that we live in, we hang out, we do stuff because that's the culture that I want to work in. When I was applying for jobs, I applied all over at all the big firms, small firms. I got a lot of no's. I have a wall inside of my house. For every no I got it like hung up on the wall with a big X on it. It's a lot of Perkins and Wills and HOK no's up there, so anybody from those firms. But still, I was looking for the firm that fit me. Kansas, I had no intentions on going to Kansas. I'm honestly got like 100 no's, and then one day I got one yes, and I freaked out because I was working as a beer man, graduated college, I had a master's degree, and I'm working as a beer man. I'm seeing all my friends who saw me leave off to go to school, and they like, I'm wearing a beer uniform, kinda. There's nothing wrong with it, but for me it hurt a little bit, and I'm pushing it, and I'm just like, no after no after no, and then I get a breakthrough. Somebody says yes. It's like, oh great, call my mom. It's like, I'm done with this beer. I call my boss, I'm like, hey man, I'm about to be out. I got a job. I go home, next day, I get another email. We wanna talk to you. Another breakthrough. So 2 back to back after like 100 notes. Like, how is it all changing all of a sudden? Call my mom, we take a trip out to Dallas. That's where the first firm was at, downtown Dallas. I was ready. I mean, I was looking for apartments. I hadn't even interviewed yet. We was looking for apartments. We was like, all right, so I'm gonna hang out at this spot right here. And so it's gonna be cool. And I interviewed, and then at the end of the interview, the guy even had the same name as me, Flip. Like, I was like, I'm Robert Scott, he was like Scott Robert or something. So I was like, oh, be there. And so I get out the interview, and I get inside the car. I remember this. It literally like a year and a day from now. And I talked to my mom, she's like, so what happened? I'm like, well, he said he's gonna call me back in like a week or so we might as well start packing or whatever. And she looked, she's like, nah. I was like, what you talking about? Like, we might as well pack. We got another day in Dallas, I'm about to go to the bar, celebrate, and we gonna pack. She was like, baby, you drove all the way out here, you took off work, and he's talking about he gonna call you back in 2 to 3 weeks, you don't have it. And so I was like, this is one of those moms where you get your parent right and you don't want them to be right. So I was like, it's cool, we could just head home, whatever, I got some other place in Seattle I could talk to. And she was like, well, Kansas is not that far, we're looking at Google Maps, and I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to Kansas. I was like, Kansas, I'm like, no, Kansas, like $20,000 less than what I was getting offered. So I was like, I'm not going out there. Like, I didn't do the math. I know what car I'm about to buy. I can't do that with that salary. It's just like, nah, let's just go. So I went on fate. I drove up to Kansas, and that was a Friday. I emailed them on a Friday night or whatever. And he was like, you know what? He emailed me back on the weekend. He was like, hey, come in Monday morning. We want to see you. And I was like, dang, he answered emails on the weekend? I drive up to Kansas. I meet them Monday. And I never felt so much like at home from the beginning. I mean, as far as welcoming, as far as wanting me to be there, I mean, they were like, listen, we want you here. You got exactly what we need here. What can we do to make that happen? And I was like, dang. And my mom, she always tell me, go to where you're wanted, okay? You're gonna find some places that may not have everything there for you, but when people really want you, that's much better than being somewhere that meets your other needs, but you don't feel wanted. So this is how my firm We're in a big building downtown. You can see that picture. I'm like one or two black guys. My other black guy friend, he left. But that's only a small portion. We like 120 people. That's me down there. We have like a corporate challenge where we do like sports. We got tug of war, track for like 2 months or whatever. We practice and train for it against all the other companies inside the city. Every time it's somebody's birthday, we got to bring in either bagels or donuts, whatever. We got to bring it in for your 1 year anniversary. Anytime you have a life-changing moment, you have to bring it in. 120, 30 people. We have bagels and donuts every day. Like my diet is terrible. Like I'm just like, yo, can we get some fruit or something else? But it's good, because I love that culture that we have. Okay, so we gotta look at some of these calls that come into it. Relocation, need to move all my stuff. You gotta know how much it's gonna cost to live where you live at, right? I was upset. When I looked at the salary, I was just like, yeah, I love it, but it's I already accounted for the other money, right? But then I started looking at some other things, like the cost of living. When I lived out there, I was like, wait, how much for an apartment? I ended up paying like, I think it was like maybe $500 a month. And that's when we went from Virginia. So I was like, that's all y'all want? And it's like, if we have a low cost of living out here. I looked at other things, school loans, okay? And for my people in college who have not graduated, these school loans are real. If you're on scholarship, I advise you to do whatever it takes to stay on scholarship. I lost scholarship by 0.01 of a point. And I tell you now, I regret that so bad. But it is real. I had to make sure the job I went to, I would be able to cover for things like that. School loans, commuting. I live 3 minutes from the job. 3 minutes. We work in a big building, but I live 3 minutes in an apartment from a job. I could walk to work, but I drive to work. I mean, it's because I'm lazy and I love to listen to trap music on the way to work. But it's 3 minutes, so I only get one song. So I gotta think about it at breakfast what I'm gonna listen to. But it's important. Wardrobe, that's another thing. I lived in Kansas. They were just guys in just plain shirt, collared shirts. But me, I'm always a suit guy, and so that had to become a part of it. I wore a suit when I got interviewed. I wore the same suit Monday with a different shirt. Wore another suit Tuesday. Wednesday, I wore my Monday suit because I only had 2 suits. But I had a different shirt, and I wore a suit Thursday, and Friday, it was Thursday, he was like, hey, on Fridays, we wear jeans and t-shirts. Jeans and collar shirts. And I said, okay, that's cool. So I wore slacks and button-up shirts. And then Monday came around, I wore my Tuesday suit. And then my boss came to my spot, he was like, hey, Robert, you got the job already. You don't have to dress like that. And I said, I know, but I said, man, this is comfortable. I just take this to the cleaners and I could just, I don't have to iron. I hate ironing. He was like, okay, cool. I guarantee you now, if you go there Monday, guess what they wearing? I ain't giving the suits yet, but they wearing ties and button-up shirts now. I helped change some of the culture so that was more of a place that I was comfortable with. I didn't force it on nobody. I could have easily said, I feel like this makes me feel more professional. No, I didn't offend anyone. I just asserted my point and how I felt. And supplies. You may need supplies, it's great if your office supplies for you. So, your perfect firm should not only meet your tangible needs, it should also be a place that 95% of the year, you're truly excited about being there. Trust your heart. Like I said, it was not a place that I thought I wanted to work, but it met my tangible needs. And I have really learned that I enjoy being there. When people ask me, how do you enjoy work? I say, I love it. You love it? Yeah, I love it. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. Or I figured out a way how I could change it so that it could become a place that I love. You want to love where you work at. If you do architecture, you're probably going to be spending a lot of time there. It sucks to be spending a lot of time doing something that you do not love. Make sure it's something that you truly feel like, okay, I can do this. Because it's going to help support your wife. So now, we get into the last portion, legacy. For what do you want to be remembered? Yeah, I got to get with some of these books. How many more books I have? I got one more. I got one more for you. So, what do you want to be remembered for? What kind of person will others say you were? And what do you want to contribute to the profession or to the world? It's really important for you to start asking yourself these questions, right? Because once you start a career, once you take on a job, time will fly. When I tell you it's been a year, it doesn't feel like a year. Just between growing, just between traveling, it's building. Time is flying, it's not stopping for you. So it's very important for you to understand what you put your time toward, because that will become a part of your legacy. I really want to give away this last book. This is one of my, like I said, these really books I like. These really books I want y'all to plan with. So could I get somebody? Could I get somebody to give me a little spill about their legacy, what they really want to do, or can I get one? Please.
I guess, why I want to go into this field is because I just want to do things. I just want to be more.
Okay. Thank you. Let me use that. All right. So as I close, I just want you to take a look at some of these people that I feel have had like a real impact on legacy. To me personally, to Los Angeles, in specific, to also. All right, thank you.